Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Faithless Forrest. And we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and people curious about living a life free of superstitious belief.
This month is the birth anniversary of Robert G. Ingersoll, and today we wrap up our celebration, month-long celebration with the ghosts. One of his speeches.
All right. This is a call-in show. While we go over a few announcements, we invite you to start calling in now on the number on the screen. You might want to get a pen and paper so that you can capture the email address that we'll give you later in the show.
Every week, the Atheist Society of Knoxville gets together for a fun meet-up at a bar or eatery somewhere in Knoxville. Sometimes we even do karaoke. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City for happy hour, after the show for food, drink, and conversation. Also, you'll need to look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience always says, everyone is welcome to their happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
All right. Well, the monthly activities of the Rationalists of East Tennessee, they work like this. The first and third Sunday mornings are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussion. The first Sunday in September is a visiting lecturer, Darrell Hersley, from the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology of the University of Tennessee. He will address convergent evolution in, I think it's pronounced chisselid fishes.
Cichlids.
Cichlids, all right.
I used to keep them.
Okie doke. The second Sunday is an afternoon book club. September's book is Religion and Science by Bertrand Russell. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course it helps. The third Sunday program this month is canceled due to a regional atheist picnic the day before. The fourth Sunday is a reflections gathering, a potluck dinner, usually at a member's home, with a subject. The subject is still to be announced.
You can visit our websites for additional details, including times and locations of these meetups. You can also reach us on our email address there, freethoughtforum@yahoo.com, if you have any questions or comments about the show or would like to recommend some subjects for later shows.
All right, well, we continue our end of world watch. And, of course, there are just 52 days of tribulation left.
If all goes well, as the people at Family Radio claim, that we will only have 7 more times that we will be able to do this show before the end of the world.
I don't know about you, Larry, but I'm not feeling any tribulation here, are you?
No tribulation.
Of course, I wonder if the theists are going to claim that the recent earthquake in our nation's capital...
and the hurricane to the New England area.
Is that God's message or not? Does God hate the Washington Monument, do you think?
I don't know, but it's kind of funny that he never sends hurricanes except in hurricane season. I mean, theoretically, he could send them anytime he wanted to.
Amazingly so. Apparently, he's got kind of like a
self-imposed restriction?
I was going to make an analogy to biological fertility period, I guess. All right. Well, so recently, Michelle Bachmann was asked, though, about her being submissive to her husband as the Bible commands. And I guess her reply was something like this. What submission means to us, it means respect. I respect my husband. He's a wonderful, godly man and great father. He respects me as a wife. That's how we operate our marriage, she continued. We respect each other. We love each other. I've been so grateful to be able to have built a home together. We have wonderful children and 20 foster children. We built a business and a life, and I'm very proud of him.
But she said she went into to become an attorney because he told her to.
That's right.
Is that correct? I mean, she wasn't particularly interested in doing it. He told her to.
She claims she wasn't, yes. It was his command.
She submitted to his will. Notice how at the end of this previous quotation, she redefined submission. It was respect at the beginning, and at the end of it, they built a business and a life together. She equated submission with respect. Then she asserted that she and her husband were respectful of each other. We would ask Bachmann, if she were here, is your husband therefore submissive to you? Doesn't equating submission with respect rather torture the meaning of the word submit?
All right. Well, I hope she'll call in and tell us about that. We want to report on the emergence of a new word in the non-belief community. At least it's a new word to me. It is polyatheism, the disbelief in many gods. Please call me a polyatheist.
Me too. There's a cute cartoon that was listed online on one of the Facebook atheist pages of several cartoon gods, and it says at the bottom, I'm a polyatheist. I don't believe in any of these gods. We cannot begin to count all the gods we do not believe in, because if you can go online and find lists of hundreds of gods, but that doesn't mention any of the archaic or savage gods of the tribes of unknown areas that have come and gone without our knowledge.
And just imagine all of the gods of prehistory that have come and gone.
Yep.
Okie doke. Well, to atheists, Rick Perry is the gift that keeps on giving. And
just after his call to prayer for a nation in crisis, Texas is still burning, and now the East Coast and the nation's capital have been visited by earthquake and hurricane. If the governor's prayer is supposed to help, it's not working. The rain went to the wrong area.
Yeah, as they say, you just can't make this up.
No.
All right.
On a brighter note, also, August is also the birth anniversary month of Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, and his life and work has inspired millions of people to boldly take up lives of science.
Well, I love Star Trek. In 5th grade, I was trying to understand science enough so that I could theorize a transporter system. After coming to grips with the consequences of what radiation does to both matter and especially living tissue, my 5th grade self concluded that Star Trek's transporter would probably never be realized, but that it's still made for fun fiction.
Well, tell us about your reaction to Star Trek then.
To Star Trek? Well, I remember walking out of the theater after the first show, realizing I had no sense of time. I had no idea how much time had passed. But I did notice that, in a sense, Star Trek... Sorry, are we talking Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek.
Oh, I'm sorry, I answered the wrong question.
Well, that's okay. You can talk about Star Wars. I'll go back to Star Trek.
Yeah. Now, although I very much enjoyed Star Wars, it is actually a somewhat anti-technology message. Actually, they're saying, well, it's, technology brings us Death Stars, and it is this invisible force that binds the universe together that's kind of the hero of it.
Yeah, but
so although I enjoy very much those movies, there is a part of the message that leaves me uncomfortable.
Well, isn't just the saying that science also allows us to have longer lifespans, live in space, live in areas where we wouldn't normally be able to live. So you could just say that it's got good sides and bad sides, and really the good side and bad side come from man himself and the use of science. So it's not science itself that's bad. Science gives us the tools to go either way we want to.
Well, in fact, Isaac Asimov, one of my favorite authors, said he defined the literary genre that is science fiction as that branch of fiction which explores the impact of science on humanity. And that really does describe what I think is the best part about science fiction. A lot of things that are called science fiction are really mistakenly categorized that way. They really ought to be called fantasy. And although I'm a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, they've got no business being in a category called science fiction.
No.
Yeah, they're fantasy.
One of the best things I think about Star Trek, Star Wars, or any of those things is that those genres is that they have a hopefulness of the future. They portray that humanity will continue to survive and improve and become more wise and be able to leave the Earth and go out into space and colonize and continue to live, which is directly opposed to the beliefs of the base beliefs of Christianity. When Jesus is going to come next week and it's all going to be over, there's no reason to take care of the Earth. There's no reason to even worry about this life. The next life is going to last forever.
Yeah, and
so we got a problem there.
So the Holy Bible is really an end of the world. So.
It is. Yep. Yeah. Revelation tells it all.
And I must say that is characteristic of a lot of Roddenberry's writings. Although there may be elements where they deal with conflict and struggle, good usually triumphs, and good triumphs because It's smart. It uses technology. You use technology to solve the problems of technology, among other things.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons that I grew up liking all science fiction. It was usually set in the future, and it, at least as a base message, meant that we had a future.
Yeah.
That we were at least presuming that a future would be there.
All right. So, did you have any particular favorite Star Trek stories or inspirations?
Well, one of the things that I like about Star Trek, and it's a question that has come up on other shows as well, is the teleporter that you were talking about. There was a line that Dr. McCoy had, says he doesn't like to go through the transporter. He always says, how can anybody survive being disassembled? And if you get reassembled in the other end, is it you? Is it the same you that went in? Is it reassembling a copy of you?
And it's a great philosophical question.
And then the religious would always say, well, if you didn't survive the disassembly, your soul went to heaven, and that's a soulless copy. So there's a lot of speculation on that. It's good food for thought and speculation.
All right. Well, I must admit, my favorite Star Trek episode would probably be, even though it's a time travel story, and on principle I think they're kind of pointless, I very much enjoyed City on the Edge of Forever, where they traveled back to the early 20th century and encountered Edith Keeler and raised that philosophical and moral question of, if someone had to die to prevent the victory of Hitler, is that just?
Right.
And I don't know how you answer that question, but it's a cool question to ask, and it was a vehicle by which they asked that question.
Recently, we were contacted by members of the faith community who were interested in learning about people of other faiths and or of no faith, meaning atheists. And several of us met back with a group of young Christian adults on August 21st. But now over a week has passed, and we want to send out a special invitation to those participants to call in now and talk further about what they learned and ask follow-up questions. And anybody else who may be interested in about the way that free thinkers think, concepts that we hold, please feel free to call in. The number's on the screen, 215-2288, and we'd be happy to talk to you before we get into this, well, even during the Ingersoll ghosts topic.
Sure enough. So you went to that meeting. How many other free thinkers went with you?
There were 4 of us all total. Dale, Ralph.
And don't out anyone. Doesn't need to be.
But it was interesting. We had maybe 12, 15 believers, and 4 of us. It was all very courteous and very polite and very interesting conversation. A lot of give and take.
Did they ask any kind of new questions? Questions that
one of them asked me if I believed in UFOs. I don't believe we're being visited. We may be being visited, but until there's evidence, that's hard to say yes or no. We have a lot of evidence in film and stuff, but there's always seems to be granular, faded, blurry pictures. So I'd like to think that they're out there, that we're not alone. And from Carl Sagan's movie, The Contact, if they're not out there, it's an awful waste of space and time, because they've had plenty of time to develop into civilizations older than ours. But no, I can't say that we're being visited currently at this time. I don't believe we are.
As a physicist, I tend to think that the difficulty of traveling interstellar distances is so great, and I don't see a physical mechanism that in principle is even going to allow something like a material being of our size to do it. I could imagine the only way human life would ever get to another solar system is if we build machines capable of traveling and that they assemble a living creature on the receiving end,
or cryogenics,
and raise them. Yeah. Well, even cryogenics means you got to transport a whole lot more stuff. Whereas we all know that each cell in our body contains sufficient information to build a human if it's surrounded by a functioning cell machinery, and then in a wet, nutrient
10 years
environment.
or 20 years before it actually reaches its destination, it would build the baby or the thing and then start education. So by the time they got there,
you'd have to
functional adults.
You have to have robot parents.
This is the essence of science fiction. This is one of the reasons it's so interesting.
All right, well, that's great. Well, so we're talking about the distant future there. But for Robert Ingersoll, that's past of just about a little, like about 120, 130 years ago. And this is the anniversary of our first show. And
1 year today.
1 year ago today, we were first here.
Back then it was a half-hour show.
Half-hour show. The three of us, you, Joe, and I, were on the air, trying to figure out how we looked and how we fit in the set here. And it's been a good time. We'd invite callers to think about, or viewers to think about what might have been their most memorable episodes or things they learned in the past year. Give us a call about that.
Yeah, when you do call in, remember there's about a 7-second delay in the broadcast. So once you call, please mute your television and pay strict attention to the phone, or we'll all be confused.
All right. Well, Larry, you're responsible for me first reading Ingersoll. Although I had heard about Ingersoll at meetings of the Rationalists of East Tennessee, it was when you brought a copy of one of his lectures to an ASK meeting back when we were meeting at the University of Tennessee Panera Bread
A while ago.
That I was first in the physical presence of any Ingersoll. And I brought it home, and after a week or so, I read it. And then I read it again. And then I read it again. And then I went online and I bought a copy of his Christmas sermon and Some Mistakes of Moses. And I think I eventually brought that copy back to you because I was thinking someone else may want to borrow this and read it, and it's a life-changing experience.
Right. Well, I did used to carry an awful lot of material just for that purpose, and thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. We always discuss some of these authors at our meetups and our RET discussion groups as well. So if you have a chance and you'd like to get in on some of these discussions, they're always interesting and you're always welcome.
All right, and we try and bring books to the meetups, and I've loaned my Mistakes of Moses out several times, so other people have benefited from it, and certainly extend that invitation to anyone who comes. All right.
Let me just say before we get into this is you'll notice that all the way through this, it's just about every paragraph that he writes is at least one sentence that you can make a bumper sticker out of or send to somebody, because it's such an illuminating sentence that it packs so much knowledge and insight into just a few words, and that he can stand and talk for 2 hours and just constantly come up with these zingers that have so much truth in them. It's just amazing. So if you're not used to Robert G. Ingersoll, let us introduce you.
All right. Well, you want to begin as he did probably 130 years or so ago, addressing a crowd?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this would be Robert G. Ingersoll talking. He did most of his work in speech in front of a crowd. In the first place, allow me to tender my sincere thanks to the clergy of this city. I feel that I am greatly indebted to them for this magnificent audience. It has been said, and I believe myself, that there is a vast amount of intolerance in the church today. But when 24 clergymen, 3 of whom I believe are bishops, act as my advance agents without expecting any remuneration or reward in this world, I must admit that perhaps I was mistaken in the question of intolerance.
All right.
So a little bit of sarcasm there from him.
Let me grab the next.
Well, we have a phone call coming in.
We
right
do?
now. Yes.
All right, great.
Let's see if they're still on the line. Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Hello, you're on the air, caller. Please give us a name or a nickname.
My name's Rhonda.
Did you say Rhonda?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay.
Great. Can you give us a short question or comment, and we'll have a little back and forth?
Yeah, my question is his shirt, does it say nothing fails like prayer?
Oh, that is correct. This is Freethought Forum. We're a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. We don't believe in a supernatural world, and this shirt kind of sums that up.
Right. I had never seen this program before, and I just wanted to make sure I was seeing what I...
Yeah, it's usually a religious channel, but this is one slight respite from that, you might say. We're trying to get our side of the story out onto the airways a little bit.
Yeah, Rhonda, approximately, depending upon how you ask the question, somewhere between 2% to maybe 15% of Americans don't believe in something like the Christian gods. Depending upon how you ask the question, if you ask atheist, you'll get a small number. If you ask agnostic, you'll get a somewhat larger number. If you ask, well, are you religious? You'll get, or not religious, you'll get a larger number. And we're here to make sure people understand
both sides.
That not everyone in the world believes in the supernatural.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. Did you have a further question or comment for us?
Well, to each his own is the way I believe.
Well, we're here every Tuesday. You're welcome to join us or call in or visit.
Okay. And I just, y'all have a good day. I just seen the program and was watching it and just wanted to put my input, like I said, to each his own,
Sure. All right. Well, the nature of today's program is you might call biblical criticism. We're talking about an author who his father was a
traveling preacher, Methodist, I think.
But he makes the argument that we can find a better source of morals than the ancient books, and that will be. I've summarized a lot of what he said here, but the particulars are worth going through as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you for calling, and let us wish you a good afternoon.
And you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. So I was going to carry on with Ingersoll's speech here, and after thanking the bishops for being his advance guard, he says, I will say further that against those men I have not the slightest feeling in the world. Every man is the product of his circumstance and that has ever touched him, and he is the product to a certain degree of the religion and creed of his day. And when most men show the slightest intolerance, I blame the creed. I blame the religion. I blame the superstition that forced them to do so. I do not blame those men.
In his other writings we discussed earlier in the month, he said that he was the greatest friend of the priests and the clerics because he was working very hard to enable them to be able to think for themselves, and that he considered them a friend, himself a friend of the clerics.
And in fact, I have met Dan Barker, who is a former fundamentalist preacher, who himself came to Freethought and described that it was a struggle to make that change. Right. And so Ingersoll, although separated in time, was trying to help people like Dan Barker.
Mm-hmm. And even the atheist experience, Matt Dillahunty would always quote 1 Peter 3:15, always be ready to give the reasons for your faith. Now, that doesn't mean just always be ready to tell people about your faith. It's give the reasons for your faith. And many of the atheists that exist today are the people who have followed that edict to find out more and more information about the religion that they have and be able to defend it. And in doing so, they find out it's pretty indefensible.
Yeah, Dan Barker said he went to throw out the baby with the bathwater and discovered there was no baby. Yeah, I probably mangled the first part of that quote.
So Ingersoll goes on, allow me to say further that this world is not, in my judgment, yet perfect. I am doing in a very feeble way, to be sure, but I am still endeavoring, according to my idea, to make this world a little better, to give it a little more liberty to men, a little more liberty to women. I believe in the government of kindness. I believe in truth, in investigation, and in free thought. I do not believe that the hand of want will be eternally extended to the world. I do not believe in the prison that will scar the ground. I do not believe that the shadow of the gallows will forever curse the earth. I do not believe that it will always be true that the men who do the most work will have the least to wear and the least to eat.
Yeah, I have to say that those things ring so nicely. They're that optimistic view of the future, like we talked about that Gene Roddenberry shares.
Mm-hmm. He says, I do believe that the time will come when liberty and morality and justice, like the rings of Saturn, will surround the world, and the world will be better. And every true man and every free man will do what he can to hasten the coming of the religion of human advancement.
All right. I'll carry on a little.
Okay.
I understand for the thousands and thousands of years that have gone by, all questions have been settled by religion. I understand that during all this time that people have gotten their information from the sacerdotal classes. That word is one I've never said out loud before in my life. In other words, from priests. I know that when India was supreme, they worshipped Brahma and Vishnu. And when Rome held its hand, the red sword of war, held in their hand, that sword, they worshipped Jove. And I know now that our religion has swept to the top. Any man living in India a few hundred or thousand years ago would have said, this is the only true religion. Why? Because here is the only one true civilization. A man afterward living in Egypt would have said, this is the only true religion because we have the best civilization. A Greek in Athens would have said, this is the only true religion. And a Roman would have said, we have the true religion. And now all those religions have died, although they were true religions. And we say, ours is the only true religion because we are the greatest commercial nation in the world. There will come other nations, and there will come other religions. Man has made every religion in this world, and in my judgment, and the religions have been good or bad accordingly as men who have made them were good or bad. If they were savages and barbarians, they made a god like Jehovah, or of the Jews. If they were civilized, if they were kind and tender, they filled the heavens with kindness and love.
Right.
Every man makes his own god. Show me a god, show me the god a man worships, and I will tell you what kind of man he is. All right. So do we have a caller here?
We do have a caller.
All right, great. Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. Please tell us your name or a nickname and ask us a short question or comment.
My name is Adam.
Hello, Adam.
And I was just going to wonder why you guys are having this stupid show.
Okie doke. Well, please turn down the volume on your television. There's a 7-second delay, and that causes the echo you're hearing. And if you listen to us on your phone, it will go much more naturally. So did you get that? Please mute your television. Let us know when you've muted. All right. So, Adam, you were asking us about why we're having our show.
Yeah.
And as we explained to the previous caller, about 2 to 15% of Americans don't believe in God, Jehovah, or the supernatural. And this is a program about free thought, and it's for people like us who don't believe in Jehovah or Osiris.
Well, what do you believe in?
I like to say that I believe in humanity. I believe in work and home and hearth and kin. There's many things. I believe just about in everything that you believe in. I just don't believe in the supernatural.
Yeah. So do you follow what we're getting at here when we say the supernatural?
Not really, I don't. No.
Okay. Supernatural would be something like a God who has thoughts and would understand us as we speak, but who can change the rules about how nature works.
Nature.
So a God could cause a hurricane, whereas Larry and I think that a hurricane is the movement of moisture in the atmosphere driven by the energy of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So you believe in okay, I don't understand. You believe in a God?
No.
You believe in gods, like cartoon gods that make hurricanes and...
No. We were saying that we don't believe in those. You might have misunderstood him.
I must have, misunderstood. So you don't believe in any of that? You don't believe in going to hell or going to heaven or...
No.
And in fact, I would also then say, well, what do you mean? Which hell? Do you mean the hell of the ancient Sumerians where you're covered in feathers and you eat mud? Is that the hell that you're asking if I believe in or not?
Let me ask you, I'm going to make an assumption here that you're a Christian.
You're correct.
Okay, how did you come to Christianity?
My grandfather.
Okay, most people in the world who subscribe to a particular religion are born into that religion. If you had been born in Egypt, you probably would be a Muslim. If you had been born in India, you'd probably be a Hindu. You understand how that works?
Yeah.
Well, what we're saying is that we have studied all of these religions, and we find them not very credible. The stories are pretty darn outlandish, that a fruit could hold knowledge of good and evil. That's a supernatural belief. That's a supernatural fruit. That a serpent could talk. That, many things like that. All of these religions have supernatural stories that we have come to the decision or the impression of that they are just stories. They're fantastic histories.
And in other words, that the story of Jehovah, which is the God of the Christian Bible, is no more likely to be true than the story about Zeus, who hurled lightning bolts from Mount Olympus. Do you follow that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not really. I mean, I'm not going to understand it because it's not real, and that's what you believe.
Right.
But,
One of
your time is going to come when every knee shall bow.
So did we
No.
Hello, we have a new visitor on the phone. Could you introduce yourself?
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
the day is coming.
Well,
He can not all he wants to.
we could go to church and listen to preaching if we want to. Thanks for visiting. Please play again.
Yeah. All right. And I'm trying to remember if there's a standard comeback to every knee shall bow. We are knowledgeable about the Bible. I've read it in its entirety, and I would encourage the viewers to do the same. Please, as you read the Bible, though, I ask you, try not to turn off your moral sense. When Jehovah drowns every living creature except for the passengers on the ark, please ask, is that really a moral thing? Certainly there must have been some pregnant women, and even if those women were sinners, and even if there was such a thing as sin that might be a mortal crime, really, could those developing babies have been deserving of death? Do we have a caller again?
We have another caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. You're on the line. May we have a name or a nickname, please?
Tim.
Tim?
Hello, Tim. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question or a comment for us? Let's make sure we understand it. We'll have some back and forth.
Okay, well, this is an interesting forum. I've never been able to ask this question before, and I've always wondered it. Speaking specifically of the Christian religion that I'm familiar with, being from the South in America, many Christians say that they want to spend their life praising God. Mm-hmm. And my question is, why would that be important to God?
Right. If he's a perfect being that he wants for nothing, you would think. He has everything he needs. Why would he invent people just to praise him? That seems pretty psychotic.
Ingersoll uses some phrases where he'll talk about, well, if God is somehow perfect, would perfect be wanting anything? Mm-hmm. And if there were a deity that somehow was not fulfilled unless he was being praised, that almost sounds like it kind of sounds like what in humans we would call maybe a bit of a personality defect, that someone's wanting the reinforcement of others.
Yeah, this comes back down to rationality. Is it more likely that there's a God who would create people in order to worship him so that they could later divide them off into heaven and hell, or is it more rational to believe that supernatural stuff just doesn't exist and that God doesn't really exist, and that these are fantasized stories handed down through history for thousands of years, and they're good stories, but they're not worthy of belief?
Yeah. Did we answer your question, Tim?
I just wanted to hear some discussion. Like I said, I've never been able to ask the question before.
Okay, yeah, that's one of the things about religion. They don't encourage questions. They may ask you if you have any questions, and then they'll give you their first off-the-cuff answer that's in their little manual. But if you start delving deeply, they will discourage your questioning, and then eventually they'll just say you're not a Christian anymore.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah, questioning is not. A matter of fact, how many times do you see a hand go up in church? That's what I like to say. You never see it.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your call. We're here every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We hope you become a regular viewer.
All right, I guess I'd like to leverage off of Tim's question just a little further. Where it said many Christians, he asked us to comment on how many Christians say they want to spend their life praising God. Now, and by God, often viewers and people here in the southern United States, they mean Jehovah, which is the God of the Judeo-Christian Bible. But if you ask that, if you think about other civilizations where they have polytheism, where there would be multiple gods, so you would have maybe the god Athena, who is the patron goddess of the city of Athens. And so if you live in the city of Athens, you owe a certain kind of respect and maybe regular contributions to the temple of Athena. But you also would be considering the wants of Zeus. And that's a very different kind of relationship with gods, where, in a sense, the gods themselves may have conflicts, and the humans go through their lives, in a way, trying to stay out of, or not getting in the middle of the conflict of the gods.
I always thought that a polytheistic belief system like the ancient Greek had make more sense, because if something goes wrong, weather goes wrong, earthquakes or whatever, you can always just explain it because it was the will of this god versus that god. They're fighting, and you get all kinds of discord in the earth. But when you have a single god, all of the discord in the earth has to reflect on him.
He owns it all.
He owns it all.
Well, have you guys run into any people with polytheistic beliefs today?
What was your question?
Have you guys run into people with polytheistic beliefs today, as opposed to
Hindus? Don't they have several different deities?
Yes. So the people who are still practicing Hinduism, they have still a polytheistic system. I must admit, I've never had a conversation with one regarding that.
But there are some.
The conversations I've had with people who grew up in India have almost always been like what it was like for them to learn to eat meat, and they describe that as a difficult transition, and some don't.
One thing I like to point out, and Christians don't like to hear this, but you could say that Christianity is polytheistic. You've got God, you've got Satan, you've got Jesus, you've got the Holy Ghost, you've got several supernatural beings that have theoretically all kinds of powers, which could equate to the old polytheism of the ancient Greeks.
Yes, I must admit that was a little confusing when I was young.
Tim, say that last part again.
I said I must admit that was a little confusing when I was young, that there was one God and yet there were more than one.
Yep. Uh-huh. You're not the first to be confused by that concept.
All right. And I gathered from what you said earlier, this is the first time you've seen our show?
Yes, it is.
All right. We're here every Tuesday from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and we hope you keep watching and that you enjoyed talking with us. Did you have any further questions? If not, we clear the line and let some other people call.
Yeah, let's do that. I may get back with you later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for calling, Tim.
And as a reminder, we do get together after the show down in Barley's Tap Room in the Old City every Tuesday from like 5:30 to 7:30 or 8. You're welcome to come down.
All right, and we hope we'll see you there. Let's see. We were talking about Ingersoll's speech. We haven't gotten too far in. I'm on page 6 of my notes. Did I jump across something?
No, I thought it was still on 5.
I think you may be right. Do we have some highlights here we might want to touch on before we get the next call?
Well, Ingersoll said that man has made every religion in this world, and the religion has been good or bad according to the men who made it were good or bad. If they were savages or barbarians, and they made a god like them. Jehovah of the Jews, if they were civilized, they had a kinder or tenderer God, if they filled the heavens with kindness and love. Every man makes his own God, even in today's religions.
All right, let's jump to the next slide.
Do we have another caller? Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Hello, welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname, and you need to listen to your telephone, not
and ignore
the television.
the TV. We have a lag. Are you still there?
Caller, we're not hearing you.
I think we lost him.
Please try calling back. We'll clear the line. Please try calling back.
Casey.
All right.
Casey?
Casey, please try calling back.
Okay.
All right. Am I doing something wrong here?
No, I think you did kind of touch on this. Show me the God of man worships, and I'll tell you what kind of man he is.
Yeah. So we need to be on the next page if we're not
6.
ready for
You're right.
Casey to have called back.
Page 6.
All right. Well, let me launch into this a little bit.
Sure.
You tell me when we're ready.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we are controlled today by men who do not exist. We are controlled today by phenomena that did not exist. We are controlled by the ghosts and dead men, and in the grasp of death is a specter that controls the living present. I propose that we shall govern ourselves. I propose that we shall let the past go and let the dead past bury the dead past. I believe the American people have brains enough and nerve enough and courage enough to control and govern themselves without any assistance. We got the caller?
So I think what he's saying here is that the Bible was written by people who no longer exist. They're ghosts, but they're still controlling our lives.
Unfortunately, they
and all religions. Welcome to Freethought Forum.
Oops, we got a dial tone. All right, sorry about that, caller. Please call back, and the screener will signal us when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
He said, I believe the American people have brains enough and nerve enough and courage enough to control and govern themselves without the assistance from dust or ghosts. That is my doctrine, and I'm going to do what I can while I live to increase the feeling of independence and manhood in the American people.
All right.
This is a man who lived during the Civil War. This is not a current politician or anything.
That's right. He was a colonel in the Civil War, served on the Union side, and then for most of the rest of his life he was addressed as Colonel Ingersoll. Mm-hmm. All right. It doesn't sound like that caller's through the screener yet. So let me jump ahead to some more Ingersoll.
Okay, when you're ready.
Got it.
Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
Caller, give us your name or nickname.
Beanie.
Okay, please pay attention to the phone and not the TV if you are.
Yeah, the television has a delay that makes it difficult for you to talk to us.
Do you have a question or comment?
Well, I guess just a comment, please. This is the first time that I have watched your program. You had went over about, the spirits and God being a spirit and everything, but I'd like to think of him as that's just faith. That's not really, some supernatural being out there. That it's truly faith, and I'm and it's good for y'all to give it this opinion and to say the things that you want to say.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. May I ask you if the God that you believe in is the God of the Christian Bible, or is it the Islamic? Christian. Okay, so do you believe that the Bible is the true Word of God, or do you believe?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not just faith that he's a power out there. You believe he has specific attributes that are spelled out in the Bible that we have here.
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to speak of faith just a minute. Do you realize that every church in America and every church in the world has a preacher standing up there preaching stuff that's different than what you believe by faith? And he is telling their congregation to have faith that what he says is true. And that every person, every church in the world is going by faith to believe that what they believe is true. We don't believe that faith is a good way of knowing. It's a way of suspending belief or disbelief. And some would call it voluntary gullibility or wishful thinking. In other words, you're presented with a view of the world or a belief that you're supposed to subscribe to, and if you start asking questions and they really can't answer them, you have to have faith that what they say is true.
Yeah, let her come back and make sure we were talking here.
Okay.
So did you follow what Larry said?
Absolutely, yes, I did. And he gives us we're free moral agents to believe and to do whatever that we choose to do. Like you were talking about the ark, and those people had the same opportunity as Noah did. We are free moral agents to choose and decide. God made us that way. And your way of thinking, I'm not, it doesn't make me mad or anything. It just kind of, it's just like it's so hard for me to understand the way that you all think. Mm-hmm. It probably is the way that I think.
Well, I was a Christian until I was 22 years old, and that was 40 years ago. So I do understand the way you think. It's just that have you questioned your religion? Have you taken the time to read the Bible with a critical mind? Have you studied any of the other religions? Have you studied science and see what science says about the world and the universe? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, please answer Larry's question. I could talk too, but he's asked you a question, so I better yield to you.
Yes, what did you ask?
He was asking if you've perhaps considered other faiths, the kind used in other cultures, and a scientific worldview. It
doesn't matter to me, the belief, the name on the door, the religion. To me, it is a blood-bought way.
It's a what?
He gave his blood.
Got it.
It doesn't matter what religion. It's just the saved part. And, sir, you said that you were a Christian about 22 years ago?
No, I was a Christian until I was 22.
Until you were 22.
I'm now in my 60s.
Does that mean that you got saved, that you were saved?
Yes, I was 11 years old. I didn't really know much about what was going on, but I was saved, yes.
So, to my belief, you are saved. And I mean, that you're kept.
Saved, always saved, I guess.
That's sealed. Saved, sealed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just
and
sealed.
And the fact that I've been an atheist for 41 years, that won't have any effect on him?
How can you have been truly saved by the grace of God and say you're an atheist?
That's just it. We don't believe that God is real. Okay?
I'm so sorry that
don't feel sorry for us, ma'am, and you don't need to pray for us either, because we're not broken. We don't need fixing.
Yeah.
Okay?
I just said I'm sorry that I'm just sorry that you don't. But like I said, when you're talking about this, it lets people see, to me, how ridiculous that your thoughts are, but
we're not.
To each his own, sir.
Well, I'll confess, I wasn't quite sure if your name was Betty or Bonnie, and
Bonnie.
I did want to offer you my worldview. I've grown up completely without faith in the supernatural. I would describe myself as having a scientific worldview. And so I don't think that we have a life beyond the life that our body has. When my body stops living, the thing that makes me Forrest Erickson will go away, and it'll never exist again. And I think that it's important that we use the life that we have, the only life that we have, well. And part of that means that we need to leave the world a better place for the children and grandchildren that we leave behind here. And as a result, so that my worldview, I think, is quite different from yours, that there's no one looking after us, and that we have the full responsibility to take care of the future. So can you see where my worldview might be uncomfortable with people who have your worldview, who thinks that maybe there's a God who's looking out for us, and if that's not true, that we might make mistakes in decisions in this world?
I understand what you're saying, but he not only is looking out for us, he is directing us, and he truly wants us to be directed in the ways of love and kindness and compassion. You said that you had read the Bible through. Is that correct?
I've read it in its entirety. I've read a Gideon Bible, which I'm told is based on the King James Version.
Right. Well, then it also says, and I don't remember exactly where the scripture is, but it says to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. That was inspired by God Himself. And so to go to, just to die, just to go back to the ground, where is your hope?
Well, whether I hope for an afterlife or not doesn't change whether or not it's likely that there is an afterlife. Do you follow that?
Wouldn't it be better, just to just to have that joy and that hope and that comfort and assurance?
But isn't it true? Isn't it a question of is it true or not? If an afterlife is not true, having a hope for it, I'm not sure that it does things that are good, and in fact, it might lead people to do things that are bad
or give up on this life, or not.
After all, ma'am, the people who flew airplanes into buildings on September 11th, they thought of an afterlife, and they thought they were going to be rewarded in that afterlife.
They were doing what they did for their God and acting on faith.
Yeah. So the issue of whether or not God is true, I think, is important, isn't it?
He is true.
No.
Well,
again, I'm sorry. His word doesn't need defending, and I will hang up. It stands on its own. But your beliefs and my beliefs are so different. But I just wanted to offer my point of view, and
thinking of us.
Hopefully,
well, thank you very much.
I've touched you in some way.
Thank you.
Let's say thanks. And you get to push the off button. There we go. And we always want to say we understand that Christians think they're doing a good thing by us because, of course, they don't want to see us suffer. Just as we think we're trying to do a good thing by making sure that the only true life they have is not misspent, and in particular that they are not taken advantage of financially by priests and pastors.
Well, one thing is we're all in the search for truth, but I think that we're doing more searching for truth than you are, and truth will not change. If God is real and you search for Him, you'll find Him. If He's not real, you won't find Him. We did some searching, we didn't find Him.
Yeah.
Welcome to Freethought Forum. May we have a name or a nickname?
My name's Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
How are you today, guys?
Doing fine. Are you the Jeff that invited us over last week?
Nope. It's the first time I've called in.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to the show.
I appreciate watching you guys on the internet and stuff. I wish I could get you. I'm up in Campbell County. I don't get you up here.
Oh, well, cool.
I didn't want to take too much of your time, but I will tell you that I've been an atheist for years and years, and never was a believer ever since I got smart enough to understand anything. I think that happened probably in my early teens. Recently, I've kind of taken on a quest that I guess I've kind of given up on. Talking to some of my friends and some of my acquaintances who are believers about, questioning their faith and why they do believe, which they never come up with a good answer in my mind, of course. But I've kind of recently been trying to take the other side of the argument, and point out to them. But what I'm starting to figure out is rational thought did not get them to the point that they are. Right. And I don't believe that rational conversation is going to get them out.
I think Christopher Hitchens always says that you can't talk somebody out of a position that they weren't talked into in the first place.
Correct.
Or reasoned. I think he used the word reasons. But I understand your point.
Just kind of feel a little lost right now, with most of the people around me being believers, even a future son-in-law going to be a believer, which is a little difficult. But I guess I just would like to get your input on how you deal with that. I guess more than anything, I just feel like my friends and colleagues are kind of lost and wasting a lot of their life depending on something that I don't believe is going to be there. Mm-hmm. I just don't see it happening. So I guess I'll just listen to what you guys have to say and let you go.
Okay.
Would like to stay on the line, though, because I don't get you in Campbell County. Wish we did.
All right.
Alrighty.
Do you have an answer or something to work off of?
Well,
quickly?
I usually don't bring up the subject unless they do. And if they do, I try to answer their questions or their comments in a calm and practical manner if I can. I've done a lot of studying on this. I've been an atheist for 40 years and talked to a lot of people. And, you'd think that if some of them had good arguments or good evidence for the existence of God, I'd be a believer again. But over 40-something years, I haven't heard the first good argument for the existence of a God. Basically, what they all do is boil down to is you got to have faith. And faith means don't question, just accept.
In other words, stop looking
thinking.
for evidence at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I think you may already be doing maybe the right thing. If you're having dialogue, and if you're keeping the conversation open, that's about the best that can be done. And then we have to hope that curiosity might open the door. Now, that said, it might be worthwhile to have things to read. For your own self, I think reading Some Mistakes of Moses, this is one of my favorite books by Ingersoll. And
The Gods was a good read by Ingersoll.
It's a short one. Mm-hmm. Among other things, it lets you, if you haven't read the Bible, I read the Bible so that I could have knowledgeable conversation with believers.
It seems like there's always, anytime you bring anything up that's in the Bible, there's always some kind of excuse for it. And I actually had one person tell me that slavery is not a bad thing, and is absolutely serious about that.
Yeah.
And they kind of sit there and they talk about God, and they have this look in their eyes like they've taken some kind of drug.
Yeah.
I don't know how to deal with that.
Most of the time, you point something out in the Bible, and Christians will either say it doesn't mean that. Well, first they'll say it's not in there, and then when you actually show it to them, it doesn't mean that. In other words, what says in the Bible doesn't mean what it says in the Bible.
Exactly.
And usually it takes them 3 or 4 pages of apologetics to get around it.
Yeah.
Or try to.
And the other thing is, it's not a bad idea if you can make the trip, come visit some of our get-togethers and meet other people.
Or look for a meetup in your own area.
Yeah. Can I give you guys an email address there after you get off the air? I know you're about done here, I guess.
We'll be here. You can call the same number after we go off the air, and we'll talk to you. Be happy to.
Yeah, that would be great. All right.
Okay.
Well,
I would like to get together with some like-minded people, I believe.
Sure.
Well, thank you for calling, Jeff. And I guess we've got about 2 minutes left. Let's say bye for now, and we'll invite listeners to quick call in. We could take just about 1 minute call, then we'll be signing off. If not, we're going to read to you a few more Ingersoll quotes.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that the one here about the object of every religion that has ever been made by man is to get on the good side of the supposed powers that be and to petition the gods to stop making the earth quake. Of course, we bring that up because of the recent earthquake here in the United States.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a few more good quotes you wanted?
Well, there was this example. Let's take a break from Ingersoll and go to the 19th century, return to the 21st. It says, please call in now. You got about a half minute. How did Pat Robinson's tribute attribute the cause of the earthquake? Anybody know offhand?
Yeah, we're wondering if callers can tell us how Pat Robertson said the Haiti earthquake occurred. What did Haiti do to deserve that? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, man, we're coming up on the 1 minute mark here. Shall we begin that closing process? All right. Well, this has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society in Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Please send us feedback. You can leave us a voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
And you can see this show every Tuesday, from 5 to 6 on this channel or on
online
live feed at ctvknox.org.
Yeah, I'm stepping on you here. Sorry.
It's okay.
We want to give our thanks to Sam and Jonas for technical help and to the staff at CTV Knox for our callers. You're going to do the last ones, Larry.
Okay.
if we experienced any audio difficulties, we're sorry about that. We've been having some the past few weeks. Please give us any feedback. And Larry, why don't you take us out with the last couple quotes?
Ingersoll's quotes, "You have no right to erect your toll gate upon the highways of thought." He also said, "Is science indebted